Director of Talking Book Services for the state of South Carolina. It got impressed upon me that it would be a good idea if we start to build a better relationship with our public libraries in the state. We've got a couple of initiatives, informal initiatives, that we would like to launch with you all. And we do understand that this is just kind of a strange time to be doing these kinds of things, but it's also an opportunity for us to help you in areas that you may not have previously thought about in terms of us helping you fill in gaps and so forth. So I am very grateful that you all joined today to talk with us about this. I have brought on as my co-host today, Caroline Smith. She is with the State Library, but she is also in charge of our State Library's Inclusive Services Center. So those libraries around the state who have gotten your accessibility assessments, those kinds of things, I'm sure you're well-versed and well aware of what Caroline does. And I will give her a couple of seconds to kind of talk about the Inclusive Services Center before we get into talking books things. We often tag team at events and things. We were actually scheduled the week of the shutdown to go to Minnesota to do a presentation together on how the South Carolina State Library is committed to serving all of our public in an inclusive manner. And Caroline does a great job of that with the folks who aren't necessarily covered by our program. So Caroline, I will pass it to you for a couple of minutes and then you can give it on back.
Sure. Thank you, Kristin. And one of the things that I do at the State Library as Inclusive Service Consultant is manage the Inclusive Services Center, which is a physical space, unfortunately, this year in our building. But we have a collection of assistive technology that you could come in and try out, and a circulating collection that is still circulating now with some curbside service through SC Lens. We have some materials in alternate formats like Braille and tactile books, books that have audio players embedded in them like the Vox and Wonder Books. And one nice example of a tactile book is like The Very Hungry Caterpillar has felt illustrations that you can touch in addition to the Braille and the printed text. So it works for a wide range of audiences. Like if you have a grandparent who's blind or losing their sight who wants to read to a grandchild, and they can both enjoy those illustrations. So we have some of those things. We have a computer with JAWS, and I can paste in a link to the Inclusive Services Center page if you want to learn more about what is in there. And right now, even though our physical space is still not available to you, I can work with you as a consultant remotely, and we could always set up a Zoom meeting to talk about some of this equipment if you'd like to learn more. And I'm also available as a consultant to talk with you one-on-one about a variety of issues, any type of inclusion and communities that you're trying to help your library serve, including people with disabilities and making the library more accessible. And I think that's about all I have to say, but please get in touch if you'd like to talk any more about how to serve your patrons in your library.
And also, please know, like I said, that if you would like to do some continuing education for your staff or some public programming, Caroline and I love to work together. So that there are patrons who are under or who have other disabilities that are not covered by our program that Caroline can very readily work with. So we try to strive and make sure that when we do presentations, when we talk to groups, that no one in that population goes away without a resource or some kind of recourse. So with that said, thank you very much, Caroline. Great as always. All right, so I am going to talk a little bit about South Carolina Talking Book Services, but also where we fit into the national scheme of things. I'm going to ask you guys to kind of bear with me because I'm not really a Zoom expert, so there's no telling what might come up on my screen, but I promise you it is all talking books related. So one of the things I like to show when talking about talking books first is a short video called That All May Read. It is available on YouTube. If you would like to show it to your staff, say you're having a staff meeting or something like that, I suggest it, very highly suggest it. It kind of gives an overview of nationally what this program is. So I will share my screen once again with the intention of sharing the video. And I think, let's see. I think actually what I'll do is start with the web page. And so this is the National Library Service's main web page that talks about their basic service. And then you can access the That All May Read video from it. It is also accessible directly onto YouTube if you type in LLC, Library of Congress, NLS, National Library Service, and then That All May Read. So here we go.
From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. National Library Service for the Blind and Physically Handicapped. Library of Congress. That all may read. More than at any other time, when I hold a beloved book in my hand, my limitations fall from me. My spirit is free. Helen Keller.
I'm a little obsessed with reading.
It's what I do for fun and for work and just about everything in between.
The National Library Service for the Blind and Physically Handicapped, or NLS, provides Braille and talking books free to people who cannot see to read or handle printed materials. Its books, magazines, and music materials are circulated to eligible patrons through regional and local libraries. NLS is a part of the Library of Congress.
There's all different types of content that's available for download. And you can read articles, you can read entire magazines, or you can read a novel. It's all at the tip of your fingers using the app or using the NLS Bard website.
There's a lot of books in other foreign languages also. And they try to also do the same kind of variety in the topics, from cooking books to religion to literature.
It's kind of like Christmas. The excitement of knowing that books are there sometimes is almost as exciting as reading the books.
All U.S. residents or American citizens living abroad who are blind, have a visual disability that prevents them from reading regular print, or have a physical disability that keeps them from being able to hold a book, may enroll in NLS.
Reading has just always been a huge part of my life, and so NLS has always been a absolutely essential key part of that part of my life.
I have been developing macular degeneration over the past 7 years, and I knew that eventually it was going to get to the point where I didn't recognize people and could no longer drive nor read. So I was preparing myself for being in that condition and getting ready for it while I could still do my own walking and driving. It's a big load off my mind to be able to have all that lined up as my vision gets worse.
I lost my vision, and one of the first questions was, how will I live? And soon thereafter, I was introduced to NLS.
NLS lets you enjoy the freedom to read your way. You or someone you know may be eligible for this service and the wealth of materials it provides.
A lot of it is the ability to remain independent and not have to rely on people. And I would say that's the biggest value that NLS has.
And I think that once people discover that there's an alternative to print, when you can't see print anymore, I think that they're going to be fascinated by the National Library Service.
Oh, I think everyone should enroll who is blind or visually impaired, or who's qualified to use the program.
It's really moved I think blind people and people with other reading disabilities into a world of abundance, as opposed to a world of scarcity.
The service is amazing.
I advise that anyone who's eligible for services enroll.
This is here for all of us, really.
It's a whole new world. NLS, that all may read.
That all may read.
Not all may read.
That 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 all may read.
Visit www.loc.gov/thatallmayread or call 1-888-NLS-READ. That is 1-888-657-7323 to sign up. And help us spread the word so that all may read.
Now, I like to show that last part because there is a way anywhere in the country for people to get in touch with NLS, and then they will be directed to their local network library. We are the local network library for the state of South Carolina. And what I will do now is share with you a PowerPoint. I hope. Let's see. I think I did that wrong. Try it this way. All righty, here we go. All right, so put together a brief PowerPoint that specifically addresses how we relate to the public libraries here in the state of South Carolina. And again, we are an agency of the South Carolina State Library. I'm sure you all are well aware of us. We are the guys who are kind of your conduit to the National Library Service, IMLS, and so forth. So we're kind of the state pipeline that helps channel things from Washington to our public libraries here in the state of South Carolina. So with that said, okay, all right. So we just saw the video. I want to talk a little bit about the national network and then just using our resources. We do have one of our reader advisors here today. I haven't seen anybody else, but I do see Brenda Boyd, who is one of our reader advisors, and we'll talk a little bit about reader advisors and just what they do and how they can help you and your staff and your patrons as well. We're going to talk a little bit about the applications and the certifiers. As I said, library staff can be certifiers, and unless we're kind of the people who are reinforcing that, sometimes that gets forgotten. It gets kind of lost in the message. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about the talking book machines, the actual machines that we send to our patrons through the mail. Our entire service is free. It is mailed to patrons, free matter for the blind. There is no charge. If they lose machines, they have a possibility of getting a replacement machine, no charge. If they lose cartridges, we can continue their service, no charge. If it gets excessive, then we do have to review that person's participation in the program. But this is all government funded by taxpayer dollars. And I know as library staff, we kind of get tired of hearing people say, I pay your salaries with taxes, I pay for these books with taxes. Well, they really do with our program. And we are very happy to let them know they're correct. So there's that. We're moving to a new service model called duplication on demand, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And we'll talk about BARD and the new BARD First initiative that's being launched nationally and what that means. We also have an assistive technology petting zoo, and in our old normal, we would have made it available to bring around to your libraries so that you could show maybe your friends group some of the technology that they could order for you to make your existing collection more accessible to people with disabilities. Maybe some of your patrons, your regular patrons who come in and would like to read certain things, but for whatever reason, there's a limitation there. We would use the technology petting zoo to give them options. And there's a couple other programs that we work with that can help them actually purchase these items personally. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about our outreach and programming. We have Digital Books and Friends Club, and again, book club. And again, Brenda Boyd, the reader advisor who is joining us today, is over that club. She may want to say a few words about that. We'll talk about our new Inreach Outreach initiative. We had done part of it with Marlborough County before we shut down. And we've kind of migrated it to a virtual model now. So we can talk a little bit about what that means. And then we'll conclude, have a quick question and answer session. And if we have time, I will end with a short video about NLS's music program. And it's something that a lot of people don't know exists. What we try to do is get folks acclimated with our program and then kind of move out in terms of the different features that are available. And the music program, I think, is a wonderful feature that kind of flies under the radar a lot. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. As I said, we are part of a national network. And here we go. All right. So the National Library Service. I show this slide so that you could see the new logo because that portion in red is new. As of last October, we became the National Library Service for the Blind and Print Disabled. We had a different name previously, but print disabled is a term that they would like for us to bring into the lexicon. And that just means we're not just talking about blind people. We're not just talking about people in wheelchairs with physical disabilities. We're not just talking about elderly people. We are also talking about people with other organic dysfunctions like dyslexia, like ADD, like ADHD. Like traumatic brain injuries and so forth. A lot of times people don't associate our program with those types of situations, and they should, because those people do qualify for our service. And again, as you see in the definition in that last part of the sentence, things are available in Braille and audio formats and delivered by postage-free mail or instantly downloadable. One of our patrons described our service to me as free audible. For those of you all who have Overdrive and services like that your patrons use on an active basis, that's pretty much what we are. We are audiobooks, and we are specifically for this particular population. So I just want to make that clear. Some folks have referred folks to us, and there's no disability attached to their attempted patronage, and we have to turn them down. There needs to be some disability attached. So we'll talk about what that means in a second. These are the national network NLS partners. I think it's important for people to see this map. Everywhere where there's a dot, there is a talking book library that is affiliated with the National Library Service. So you see in California, there are 2 dots, one for Northern California, one for Southern California. If you see in Pennsylvania, there are 2 dots, one for Eastern Pennsylvania, one for Western Pennsylvania. So there's a talking book library in Pittsburgh, and there's a talking book library in Philadelphia. But each one of those dots serves that entire state, not just where they're located. They serve the entire state. So it's important to understand this is a nationwide network of libraries. If you have a patron who is a talking book patron in another state, and this has happened frequently with the pandemic, where maybe an elderly family member may move in with younger family to take care of them, and they had a talking book machine and they were a patron in another state, that is considered a transfer patron if they come to us. That state is not going to send them talking books anymore. That state is not going to service their talking book machine anymore. They need to transfer into South Carolina as a South Carolina patron. It's not a new application. They don't have to join the network again. What they have to do is just transfer their membership to us. And it's very important because The machines and the cartridges and all those great things, they all have numbers attached to them. That's all government property. So that government property needs to be transferred from, say, Pennsylvania to South Carolina if they move to South Carolina with another family member. So I think that gets overlooked a lot, that people don't understand that's how that process works. Okay, so we are South Carolina Talking Book Services. We are the South Carolina Network Library. Most of the libraries in the network are affiliated with either their state library or an archives, the Secretary of State's office in their particular state. We are very lucky to be a department of the South Carolina State Library. And so I frequently try and brand us as South Carolina State Library Talking Book Services. People understand. We are a part, one word, but we are a part, 2 words, of the South Carolina State Library. I'm very proud to be so. So what needs to happen? Your folks need to get an application. Those applications are available on our website. There's a link for a individual application as well as a link for a institutional application. And that's another thing that a lot of people don't know. Institutions can also be members of the network. So nursing homes, group homes that serve people with disabilities, different after-school programs that serve children with disabilities, they can all be institutional members or institutional patrons with us. And both of those applications, because they are separate applications, are available on our website. We are actually running out of hard paper applications. I think one of the bookmobiles approached us a couple of weeks ago asking for applications. So we're encouraging people to go to the website and use the application on the website. But it's actually a good thing because we are about to put together some PR kits that will go out to all the public libraries in the state of South Carolina. There will be a plastic holder that will have the new application in there, as well as some bookmarks and just some business cards that you all can pass out. You can just keep them on your desk. And anytime somebody comes in and has a question, or you self-identify someone, you identify someone who is in a wheelchair or on a walker and has some specific reading requests, you can make the suggestion that they apply for the program. Now, if you can visually see, or a staff member that works in the library can visually see that that person has one of the disabilities covered, one of the physical disabilities covered, you are empowered to be their certifying authority. You, as a public library worker, are empowered to sign for them as a certified authority. What you are not able to sign for is an applicant who has a reading disability or one of the other cognitive disabilities we talked about, dyslexia, ADD, those kinds of things. That's not a visible disability. So an actual doctor, medical doctor, has to sign for that. That becomes an issue for us because we would be a wonderful service, particularly right now, for a lot of children that have ADD, ADHD, those kinds of things. And we don't have a lot of children on our patron rolls. We've got around 5,000 patrons. Less than 100 of them are children right now. And part of that has to do with the fact that our in-house collection does not have a lot of children's books in them. We are very actively working to rectify that situation. Most libraries in the network have a recording program where you record books that are germane to your state. And our recording program has dedicated itself to recording more children's books, particularly children's books that have to do with South Carolina very recently. And we had shut down our recording program during the pandemic shutdowns. But right now we are rejuvenating the program by starting what we're calling the mobile recording studios, or the MRSs. And we've got mobile equipment that we are allowing our narrators to take home, record things at home, and then they can upload those files and we can manipulate them to NLS standards and include them in the national collection. So please encourage your parents who have children who may qualify for the program to get the application and take it back to their medical doctor. Now, I do realize that's asking a whole lot of a parent to take the application, take it back when the child goes to the doctor, present it to the doctor and have the doctor sign, particularly in the current climate and with what's going on in the world. I do want to encourage you, there's a pilot program going on right now with NLS in Pennsylvania and Texas, where they are allowing school staff. So the licensed social workers, excuse me, the counselor that does the child's IEP to sign for those children. And we are excited about the possibilities of that because it looks like at the end of that pilot project, that will be extended to everybody else. So at least children will be able to take this paperwork to the schools, to the teachers. The silver lining in Texas is that it is now state legislation that the librarians, social workers, and teachers in the school have to present this to the parents when they're going through the IEP process. So not quite sure if that's going to happen here, but it's just a wonderful way for children who otherwise wouldn't even know about this service to be involved in it. So I will, let's see. Oh, and then electronic signatures. Another reason why we are running out of paper applications is because NLS is in the process of trying to figure out a legal method to accept electronic signatures. In theory, they've already approved it, but once they approve it, you will not have to get that hard copy back to us. The electronic signatures of an electronic application where everything is online will suffice. So we're hoping if we can get that situated in an Adobe file, it'll make everybody's life easier. So technically, a person will be able to walk into your library, get on one of your computers, sign it. You'll be able to come over, sign the X with your name in it, what your position is. They will be able to send it electronically, and then we can get that patron signed up on the spot. So that's what we're really hoping for in the near future. I talked a little bit about the pilot project. Let me talk a little bit now about what your patrons actually have to do after they filled out the paperwork and sent it into us. We've gone through our approval process, and then our reader advisors will contact them for next steps. And okay, there we go. All right. All right, so there are multiple ways for patrons to order. We understand when we're dealing with a population with various disabilities, it's kind of difficult. It can be kind of difficult for them to contact different services. So we try to make it as easy as possible. They can call us through our 1-800 number. They can call us through our local Columbia number because we are located in the state library. We have not been in the building since March. But we do have our circulation staff, our mailroom staff. We actually run the mailroom for the entire agency, and they've been there and they have been phenomenal. We're not mailing items between about March 17th to June 1st. They hit the ground running on June 1st and have not stopped. So we are very proud of them, and our patrons are very happy that they're there. You can also call us through Relay SC. If you dial 711 and then our phone number. Our reader advisors have been working from home that whole time. They're available from 8:30 to 5, Monday through Friday, and they're closed holidays. So we will be closed next Thursday and Friday, and then the following Monday, and then the following Friday for the holidays. But we are hitting the ground running on Monday, January 4th with a bunch of new developments, and I'm excited to talk about those in a few minutes. You can mail your book request to us at the Senate Street location. They can fax requests. We do still accept faxes. They can email things to TBS Books, and you can email anything to the TBS Books at statelibrary.sc.gov. It just doesn't have to be book requests. Any questions, any concerns, we get a lot of donation inquiries to that email address, and just a lot of commentary. Sometimes people just telling us what they do and do not like, and we're okay with that. And then you can also go to our website and log into the online catalog. You do have to call us first so that we can, or send us an email so that we can give you a user ID and a password. But once you get that user ID and password, you can actually go to our website. And if you take a look at the two slides at the top on the right-hand side, that's what our website looks like. And that's what our web OPAC looks like. For library folks, you guys usually use ILSs, Integrated Library Systems. We use an ILS called CLOS from a company called Keystone out of Raleigh. And they service a lot of the talking book libraries around the country. It's kind of an involved database, but we like it. We're doing okay with it, and they're very responsive to us in terms of like cataloging and making sure that our subject search terms are updated. We have a program called RUB, Rated Unrated Books, and Brenda is also in charge of that program for us. It's a nationwide program, and we have volunteers as well as staff all over the country who listen to our books and read them and just make sure that the quality is okay. And if there's anything like objectionable language or anything like that, they go in, they put those qualifiers in under the cataloging rules, and it helps us to better match our patrons to books, because our patrons can either call us and make a request for what they want, or we can put them on auto select. And every night when it's time for them to get new books, it will automatically select books for them. So those subjects help the system automatically select those books. So what is a talking book machine? That is what is on the screen right here. They are mailed, like I said, free matter for the blind, and we have some accessories that can come with them as well. We have a pillow speaker that you can lay down and listen to under your pillow. We have headphones. We have a remote control that will go with the DS1, which is on the left-hand side of the screen. It has fewer buttons. With a little bit of lesser functionality. But if we mail the patron a remote control, that will give it the same functionality as the DA1, the advanced machine on the right-hand side that has a little bit more functionality. So you can see the green button is the play button there. Right underneath the green button is a cartridge, talking book, an actual talking book. And it goes into the machine. You can rewind and fast forward on either side of the play button. On top of that is a snooze button. If you're listening to the machine and you want it to shut off in a half an hour, you can hit that. And then all the other buttons just kind of help you, fast forward. And there's an information button that will basically give you information about the machine and the book and so forth. The advanced machine, the DA1 on the right-hand side, is going to be very important to our new service model. We are moving on January 4th to a new service model called duplication on demand, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But right now, we have a one book, one cartridge model. So on the top left-hand side, you see the blue case. And that's what our cartridges get mailed in. So that cartridge that's in the machine would go into that blue case. There would be a card, a mailing card on the blue case that we would slide in. Those mailing cards get run every morning, and it has the patron's information on it, and it gets mailed to the patron. So that's one book that gets mailed to that patron. One book, one cartridge. We are moving to a one patron, one cartridge model, where one cartridge will be put into a machine, and I'll show you a picture of the machine in just a minute. All the books that that patron has requested in their latest order will go onto that cartridge. So if they have requested 5 books in the past, they would have gotten 5 of these things sent to them separately. After January 4th, once they actually get integrated into the duplication on demand service model, because it's going to take us a minute to do that, to get everybody into the fold, but we're going to start with our brand new patrons in January. All 5 of those books they requested will be on that one cartridge. So if they request 10 books, they'll be on that one cartridge. If they request 15 books, they'll be on that one cartridge. So we're really excited about that. It's going to cut down on a lot of things with us, mailing and patron footprint and all that kind of stuff. And we'll be rotating a couple of different cartridges for each patron, because our circulation model is that once you return a book, then we send you out another book. And it works out really well right now when we have patrons who may have 10 books at home. They listen to one, they send one back to us. They have 9 books at home. We receive that book, once we get it back into the office. And so we circulate them out another book. So then they still have 10 books. They finish the 10th book. They send that back. They have 9 books at home. We get it. Then it circulates them another book. So it gives them a constant rotation right now. We want to keep them in constant rotation when we go to the one patron, one cartridge model. So there'll be a couple of cartridges rotating for them, but it'll be a whole lot different and a whole lot easier for everybody involved. If they want to read 15 books, that there are only 2 cartridges rotating as opposed to 15 rotating. So we're really excited about that. And so what that looks like is this. We visited Georgia, our sister talking book facility, and they showed us what it looked like to go to duplication on demand. If you take a look on the top left-hand side, we call those toasters, and that's how we copy all of our books now. If you come to visit us in our facility at the South Carolina State Library, you will see 250,000 talking books on those shelves. Now we don't have to have 250,000 talking books. We have to have probably about 10,000 cartridges total, which will be 2 cartridges at least for all of our 5,000 patrons. Now, in theory, that's the way it's going to work. In practice, the numbers aren't going to be that exact, but because some patrons will have 3 or 4 cartridges, some patrons will have no cartridges, and I'll talk about why in a second. But the mailing label, they just send it back to us. And that card that you see now, instead of having the card that will have all of the patrons' information on it, and then our return label, it will have the patron's mailing label so that you mail it out to the patron. On the other side of the card will list all the books that that patron ordered. So if there's a caregiver or somebody who is working with that patron, they can actually see everything that's supposed to be on that cartridge. Everything takes place on that top right-hand photo. That's about the size of the operation. So we have shrunk pretty much a whole floor's worth of equipment into about that size. So we're really excited about that part of it. And then you can see at the bottom, folks actually doing the actual workflow and what it looks like on a screen with the ILS and so forth. And on the bottom right-hand side, just kind of their kitchen and how things work out. So we were really grateful, literally right before the shutdown. I think we went in February, the last week of February, I think, to Atlanta to visit them. And they were very gracious and showed us how the operation works. So we're really excited about that. They were able to shrink their operation from a warehouse, a literal, like it looked like Indiana Jones's warehouse, to a room about the size of a big hotel banquet conference room. So we're excited to be able to be moving into the new world of talking books when dealing with the machines. Now, the new world of talking books when dealing with the service period is called BARD. BARD has actually been around for a few years now, and BARD is short for Braille and Audio Reading Download. It's a web-based password-protected service. And this is the service when I talked about our patron who said we're basically Audible for the print disabled. This is the service that kind of gives us that reputation. You can have a personal device. So if you take a look on the top, you'll see some iPads, you'll see an Android, a Kindle. I'm sorry, Kindle is our preferred Android device. And then you'll see an iPhone. BARD can be downloaded just like an app, just like Kindle. And once you qualify for our program, you get a username and a password, and you download your books. And the wonderful thing about our books is that a lot of our books, we have a lot of books that are read by the network libraries, like the books that we read and put into the system. I think C. Hope Clark, who is a detective novelist, was our most downloaded BARD author this past year. But she was up against people like Michelle Obama reading Becoming, just all the James Pattersons, those kinds of things. All those titles are available through BARD. And we do have the mass market titles, a lot of the mass market titles available, but we really had the version of Michelle Obama Reading Becoming in our collection. So you do have to be a registered patron of NLS and a registered patron of South Carolina State Library to get BARD. But NLS is pushing an initiative called BARD First. I talked a little bit about how they're changing the certifying rules in Texas to make it a little bit easier for children to access these items and to access our program. Well, that yielded, I think they said 1,600 new patrons just from that pilot program. And nobody has 1,600 talking book machines. None of the network libraries have an extra 1,600 talking book machines. So what we are doing is trying to promote BARD First. If we get a patron and they come into the network, we would like them to use their personal device first. And this actually works out pretty well, particularly for people who are more acclimated to technology. And I think in the video you heard the man talk about his gradual macular degeneration. People who are losing their vision and still may have some peripheral vision or are using their devices in other ways. You all may be aware that the Microsoft products have the Seeing AI apps and so forth. And people kind of get muscle memory with their pads and their personal devices. So BARD kind of does work out. It ends up being, the first option for a lot of our patrons. And a lot of them are very happy with it. However, you do have to have, Wi-Fi capability and all that kind of stuff. And in certain areas of our state, that's just not a possibility. We have people who are just prohibited for a number of reasons of being able to avail themselves of BARD. So I want you all to be very aware of the fact that the Talking Book Machine program is not going away at all. And we actually have some people of means who could use BARD First and who are they love their talking book machines. We had a session yesterday of some reader advisors nationwide who just kind of talked about some of the challenges they've been experiencing during the pandemic. Just how people really rely on this program to, give them inspiration and to give them stuff to do. And just how kind of sad it's been that folks haven't been able to, read the way they've wanted to read and so forth. And we've been a bright spot to a lot of people. But we've also been a bright spot to a lot of people who would not have had options like BARD or, for-profit options like Audible and so forth. Those talking book machines have saved a lot of people, and we're really happy about that. So, okay, so this is the BARD site. And one of the things I like to point out with the BARD site is that it's not just the Audible books, talking books that you can hear on BARD. You can actually download Braille books. So there's a device called a Refreshable Brailler. It's down there on the bottom left-hand side, and you can read Braille. So what happens is there are pins on that machine, and the pins pop up to actually make Braille words and contracted Braille phrases and so forth. But you have to have a book that will tell the pins when and how to pop up and so forth. And it has to be transmitted digitally. And that is what BARD can do. You can hook it up to your device, hook the device up to the Refreshable Braille machine, and then read your books. And we are actively, weekly, if I'm not mistaken, they're actively adding titles to the BARD program. So this is a feature of our program that a lot of people are not aware of that we like to share. There are patrons out there who have refreshable braillers who are not aware that they can, borrow books just like anybody else from the public library, but it would translate to their refreshable brailler. So if you were not aware of that before, I'm glad you are now. All right, and so this is our assistive technology petting zoo. We have a staffer and a backup staffer that, like I said, we were supposed to be going on the road in 2021. We would be taking it to all the public libraries around the state who requested our services. And we would set up and show the equipment and take some things out of your collection and show you how it would make your collection more accessible to your disabled population. And after that, we can make referrals to the South Carolina Assistive Technology Program. The University of South Carolina has an assistive technology program that will actually lend some of these items to individuals and agencies that want to try them out first. Some of this stuff is very expensive, and it can become cost prohibitive to order it. And it's really unfortunate. And people think that something will work for them. They pay $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for it, get it into their facility or get it into their home, and it does not work for them. It does not fulfill the purpose. The USC SCATP will allow them to borrow it, take it home, and see if it does fulfill the purpose. And then they can see about purchasing. And they can actually put them in touch with people who they can purchase it from them secondhand, used, which would make it less expensive. They can also kind of do a trade for trade with people. They can, negotiate. If you have equipment that doesn't work for you and I have equipment that doesn't work for me, and our equipment might work for each other, we can trade. So that is the purpose of the assistive technology petting zoo. What we have decided in 2021 is to make it available virtually to public libraries around the state. So if you contact us, and our contact information is on our webpage, if you contact us, we can do a Zoom, much like this one. And the staffers who are responsible for it will show you the equipment, show you how it can be used for your library, and do a question and answer session with whoever you decide to invite to that program. Now, you can invite staff. It can be a part of your staff day. It could be a webinar for staff if you're not fully open yet and you have your staff doing webinars. It could be for your friends group if they're looking for something to purchase for your library. It could be for your board of trustees, just to let them know that there are options, that you don't have to put out a whole lot of money to try and make your collection a little bit more accessible to folks. That is up to you. I also want to let you know that the Assistive Technology Program at USC has a Tech Tuesday where they are demonstrating these things every Tuesday. So if you go to their website and contact them, you guys can take a look at their Tech Tuesdays as well. But we want to focus specifically on public libraries and how it will work with public libraries. Now, when we used to go out and do physical displays before the shutdown, this is what it looked like. We would always bring one of our talking book machines and the cartridges and so forth, because of course, our primary purpose is to let folks know about our program, but we also wanted to let folks know about things that we could help them with collaterally. So there's handheld magnifiers. There's a portable desktop video magnifier. There are speech-to-text machines, text-to-speech machines, I'm sorry, if you're not familiar with those. If you look on the bottom left-hand side, you'll see a thing that looks like an old projector. And on the top of it is a camera. What you do is you put a regular book, like say, for instance, one of your old archival quality books that you can't do a whole lot of manipulation to. You can put that underneath there. The camera will take a picture, and then it will read it. It will read everything there. So your blind patron is able to actually read the archival book without anybody having to do a whole lot of manipulation to it. And a lot of folks don't know that exists. And again, it can be kind of pricey. But if you have somebody who wants to donate to your library, or you have somebody who specifically wants to help you with disability-related issues, this is a plan. This is something that you could present to them and let them know about. So there's that. And then we are moving into the realm of even more online programming. We have a Digital Books and Friends book club. Like I said, it's run by Brenda Boyd. It takes place on Fridays. We are moving to monthly in 2021. I think we were doing quarterly, and we had shut down for a while during the shutdown. But I was very happy. They read A Christmas Carol in December, and I thought that was a great choice. Brenda pointed out everybody has seen every variation of A Christmas Carol movie that's out there, but very few people had actually read the book. So that's what they did in December, and they've moved to Zoom. They were doing it kind of like in a podcast call-in version, but they've moved to Zoom, and any Talking Books patrons who are already existing patrons are welcome to join them. They just need to call and get the Zoom information from us. So we're going to be doing that. And we're also doing our Inreach Outreach. I started with, we had already done part of a session with Marlboro County. So Inreach Outreach is, the Inreach portion is that you all come to us. Initially, it was envisioned that you would come to our facility and see those 200,000 books and see our operation, see them run the cards, and see our large print books, because we do circulate large print books. For those libraries who do not have big, large print collections, we can supplant your collection for your patrons. And we also circulate Descriptive Dvds. So Descriptive DVD is just one of the DVDs. I think I had a picture earlier in the presentation of How to Train Your Dragon. And that is a a DVD in our collection. And it just describes what's going on the screen. So if somebody walks into the room with a green sweater on and there's a roaring fireplace, it says that. So a grandparent who might not be able to see the screen very well could watch How to Train Your Dragon with their grandchild and be able to follow all the action at the same time. Those circulate as well. So we wanted to bring people in to see our whole operation. And then the shutdown happened, and we can't do that. So what we've started doing is when we set up these sessions, the Inreach sessions, we actually walk through with a camera on Zoom and show those different aisles where the books are, and show the actual machines printing the cards and so forth. And they get to talk to our circulation staff who take care of all those things. And then the outreach portion is that we do a Zoom like this to your facility. So whoever you have in your facility who may have some specific questions, we can answer those questions. We've been working very closely with Dr. Tina Hirschberg's program at the University of South Carolina Upstate. It's one of the best programs in the area to train teachers of the visually impaired. So it's a master's program, and those teachers come out certified to specifically train children who are visually impaired. And so we've been doing a lot of Inreach outreach with them, where we're showing them features of our ILS and what the floor looks like and all that. And then, we're going to them virtually and on their turf and answering any questions that they have on that end. And we'd be more than happy to do that for library staffs, public library staffs around the state, whenever they would like us to do that. If we have a space in our schedule, we'd be more than happy to do an Inreach or an outreach session, and ideally both, with the Inreach portion with the staff coming into us, and then again with the outreach portion with us being more outer focused when we do that session. What's going on in your library? Can we walk around your library and take a look at a few things? Let's talk about your large print collection, those kinds of things. So our contact information again is on our webpage, and we'd be more than happy to talk with you all about those things. So with that said, I am going to stop sharing. And does anybody have any questions? I'm looking in the chat right now, and I see that Caroline has shared her information with you all. Does anybody have any questions? Anything that you would like to add? Anything that was unclear? Anything that you would just like to bring to the table regarding talking books? Yes, no, maybe so? Okay. I'm going to give Brenda, are you still there? Brenda Boyd?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to just introduce yourself, talk a little bit about what the reader advisors do. About 2 minutes, and then we will end with the music programs video and our information.
Okay, great. Thank you for this opportunity. I would love to see you all in the flesh. I'm one of the reader advisors here at the Talking Books Library, and we are a unique group of individuals. We spend most of our days talking to our clients every day. They call us with their requests, their concerns, and like most of you know, when you have a patron, the book in your case is red or green. In our case, it's the character or it's the location. And from there, we have to figure out which book are they referring to, or what books are they interested in reading. Majority of our time is spent with the applications that we receive every day. We call the clients. Once we receive an application, the process is that we will call each home because we want to make sure we have the correct information. We want to tell them how the service is going to work, and then also give them an opportunity to ask any questions that they might have about the service. And we go over the player and how to return books, how to request books, and just to really introduce ourselves to our new clients to make sure that they know this is a friendly, safe place and that we are always there for them. In this case right now, being here for our clients is through voicemail and email. So we have to call them back right now just because of the situation we are currently in. But they love us, we love them, and the service is a wonderful service. If you have any clients out there or know of any clients, please introduce them to the service. It's amazing what it can do for a patron's life. We get comments every day that these books have saved my life. They have brought mother back from the brink, where patrons have isolated themselves because they've lost their vision, and they think that is the worst thing that could ever happen to them. And you have to show them, as everybody says, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that there is still life available, and books bring that to people. I saw something in the chat about book club, and I'm going to be very brief. Yes, book club is only available to TBS patrons. If you have another question, I'd also like to throw out, Kristin mentioned RUB, Rating Unrated Books. This is a program that the National Library Service and the regional libraries are involved in. We get, since NLS is not recording as many books as they used to, we're getting them directly from the publisher. They have not been rated. NLS does a wonderful job of rating and cataloging all of their books, because there's nothing worse, and we all know this, about a patron getting a book that they are not happy with. Either there's too much language, there's too many descriptions of sex and violence. And I have to explain that in a murder mystery, someone will have to die. Yes, but they don't have to be eviscerated, So there are different levels of that. So if any of you are out there who might be interested in maybe reading for the RUB program, you can just send me an email. My email address is bboyd@statelibrary.sc.gov. And basically, that's all I have to say. Thank you all. We are here Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5. And if we're not here, just call and leave a message. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to unmute. This is our webpage, sctalkingbook.org, and it has all of our information. If you go under news, there's a wonderful podcast that Brenda did not too long ago with our communications department head. Eligibility, that information is available. The applications, remember, there are institutional as well as individual applications that are under apply, how to order books, pictures of the equipment. Again, all that is here on our webpage, sctalkingbook.org. And then we also get a number of donations. So if you know anybody who's looking for a wonderful cause to donate to, we think we're wonderful and we think we're a good cause. So I will end today with the NLS Music Program. The NLS Music Program, it is not Spotify for the print disabled. The NLS Music Program is a wonderful program that affords people music theory articles and books and music history books and scores in Braille. and just different items related to music and musicians for people who are primarily blind, but there are some other things there for folks who would be listening in our audible options. But let me just let you see the wonderful offerings they have for our blind patrons that a lot of people don't know anything about. And we will end on that note. So thank you all so much for joining us today, and listen to the music.
Kristin, can I ask you one quick question from the
Yes.
chat first? Laurie has asked, is Bard service available in other languages?
Yes, Bard service is available. Not only is Bard available in other languages, we have entered into the United States, the Library of Congress has entered into a new agreement called the Marrakesh Agreement. And with Marrakesh, it will make it easier for us to not only get books in other languages, but books from other countries that may have previously had some copyright issues involved. So we're really excited about Marrakesh. That's another reason why the term has been expanded to print disabled, because it's now expanding to disabilities internationally, not just what's covered under our American legislation. And let me let you know, we are legislated in government legislation on the state level as well as the national level. So yeah, we're real excited about Marrakesh, and there are foreign language items available. We were really proud this year to have our first toddler patron, foreign language toddler patron. We had a Spanish speaking child who was 4 years old, who signed up for our program. And this year we had a native Russian speaker. And we identified, I think initially about 116 titles for this person. And we're gonna, kind of parse them a little bit, a couple of titles at a time, and circulate those out. So we're excited. Yes, we do serve different languages. So thank you so much. That was a good question. So now I will end it with the video. I love this video. Thank you, guys.
From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
One of the favorite pieces that I learned while I was studying piano from a Braille score that I got from the library was of Debussy's Clair de Lune.
The other part of the music services that I like is I can always just download something if I didn't get around to ordering it yet.
I got a keyboard several years ago as a birthday present, and I said, well, how will I play it? So I said, I will call the library and find out if they have any lessons. So I got a few of them. I got a good sense of what the keys were doing and how to play.
I was looking at Bard this morning, and there are all kinds of books out there to get me back into theory and augmented chords and major and minor and all of these wonderful things.
Most of the major pieces that I've sung are available through NLS. So being able to, call up or look in the catalog and see what is available and what I would have to supplement has been really important.
I personally have borrowed materials ranging from Beethoven to some more modern composers.
Being able to actually read what the composer intended really gives you the freedom as an artist to then give your own interpretation to that piece of music. I really think that the music section is one of the best resources that NLS has.
Visit loc.gov/thatallmayread or call 1-888-NLS-READ to learn more about NLS music materials. Apply for the Library of Congress Braille and Talking Book Program today.
So thank you all so very much for joining us today. Again, we would be more than happy to do a session like this for your individual agency, for your boards, for your friends group. We would be more than happy to talk to any of the agencies that you work with in your community who you think might benefit from knowing about our program. We are here for you, and please avail yourselves of us during this period when it's very difficult to kind of serve those patrons in our community that may otherwise go unserved and may qualify for our program. It's very easy for us to mail items to people who qualify for our program and to keep them as active readers during this very difficult time.